Okay. I might make my own video about it, especially since my, opinion is pretty weird on it. So me and Dennis today, speaking of the ocean, we took a plunge into the depths of the smelliest, foulest corners of the earth. And by the earth, we mean HBO Max. And we watched the current 2 episodes, or 3, I guess, by the time that this episode goes up, I think, of Velma. I know. I didn't want to watch it. I really didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to contribute to it, if that makes any sense, because it's so stupid how this works. A click is a click. You get a click counts as a click and be like, look at the ratings, look how many people watch. I'm like, yeah, that does not mean all those people liked it. You know what I mean? Like, that does not mean that. It's right? It's dumb how it works that way.
Especially all their guys who look at their analytics and everything, right? All the guys that they have working that job and just basically hey, your job is to look at these numbers and tell us what you find and basically what does this all mean? And for a lot of them, I'm pretty sure even they know okay, yeah, let's say if a show gets mad clicks, right? But at the same time, it's you still have to bring the discrepancy of how many of those people for one, did they like it? Because for the most part, a lot of people when they watch stuff on YouTube, and especially any kind of platform that has a rating system, more often than not, I see more views than people actually rating it. It's just kind of how it is.
I will say, when it comes to series, they'll see what the decline is, because I feel like there's always less people that watch, unless a show is massive, like Breaking Bad and shit like that.
Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones.
Unless a show they'll see how many less people watch it over time, because there's always going to be less people who watch it after the premiere.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's going to happen with Velma, absolutely. So here's the thing: we watched Velma, and if you don't know what Velma is, basically, HBO Max released, worked with Mindy Kaling, who played Kelly Kapoor on The Office. You remember her, she was the Indian woman from The Office. And they gave Velma from Scooby-Doo her own show. But it's as all reboots for Scooby-Doo go, they're a little different. But this one's a lot different.
This one's drastic, is what I'm saying.
It's drastic. It's an adult comedy. They say fuck, there's drugs, there's sex. Literally in the first 2 minutes of the show, there's a bunch of naked women in a fucking locker room within the first 120 seconds of hitting the cartoon. Which with how meta the show is, they self-aware make a joke of. Literally Daphne's first line is hey, isn't it weird how whenever a show starts, there's always gratuitous sex at the beginning and stuff like that. We'll get to the meta humor in a minute, but it's an adult spin-off centered around Velma. And this show, before it even aired, was met with a ridiculous amount of scrutiny. It got dogged on the fucking shit online before the episodes even aired. And even I said something on Twitter about it, when I saw a clip, right? There's a clip of, Shaggy, who's called Norville in this show, because, actually, canonically, that is his actual name in Scooby-Doo lore. It's just no one calls him that. They call him Shaggy. Fun Scooby-Doo. Yeah, that fun Scooby-Doo fact for you guys, by the way. I mean, hey, I would have done the same thing if I were the writers and I was trying to make the show this different. I'd be like, let's call him his actual name in this show. I would have done the same thing. But,
but everyone still knows him as Shaggy, man.
Exactly.
No one cares that he's named Norville.
Yeah, so Shaggy says to Velma, because they're looking at a bunch of stoners in the corner, and he's like, you do know what 420 means, right? And then Velma goes, yeah, it's code word for adults who still watch cartoons. And I saw that clip on Twitter, and I left a comment saying that I now firmly believe this show is a social experiment. It has to be. There's no way that they're promoting it in this gratuitous, perverse way and expecting people to actually like it. And you go on YouTube, you look at the reviews, and all the reviews, it's pretty much...
It's unanimous. No one actually really likes it.
It's unanimous, and it's also how do I stand out making a review of Velma? Because they're all the same. All the titles are Velma is the perfect example of what's wrong with modern writing, or Velma is the worst animated cartoon ever made, or Velma is what's wrong with modern streaming services, all sorts of shit.
I gotta bring up our Discord chat that we had.
Yeah, I gotta bring it up too, because I'm gonna have to use it for reference as well, because I don't remember everything I saw today. I went into Velma fully expecting to feel the exact same way, to hate it. going in,
As did I.
as did Dennis.
I was
And
working too, mind you, as I was watching this.
You work from home. Shut up.
Yeah, but I was busy that time, man. Like I
You
was like, I
literally
had it right
messaged
here.
me saying that
I
you
know
went
I
to
had it right here in front of me as I was watching it, but I was still like this the whole time. I had my head
Up
up
and
and down like that.
You
It
literally
wasn't
messaged-
fun. It
After
wasn't
it was
fun.
done, you messaged me saying you were gonna go. Well, I'm not gonna say that. Never mind. That might
I jerked off afterwards.
on the
jerked
clock.
off. Yeah, on the clock. Yeah. On my break.
Anyway, we're gonna fuck. And I swear to God, I really do mean this with every fiber of my being. I do not like contrarians. I hate people who literally have the opposite opinions just to be different. And that's normally not the case for me. Like, I'll usually, like, if the internet will have that kind of opinion about something and I feel the same way, like, I'll help dogpile on it, whatever. That's why I watched it, to make content of it. You think I'd watch Velma in my spare time if I wasn't going to talk about it on the show? Or to make a review about it on my channel? Fuck no. I didn't think it was that bad. Yeah, and I know. Listen to me. It still sucked. Like, it wasn't good. I'm not gonna sit here and say.
So
like,
it was a slightly sweet shit sandwich, is what you're saying.
yeah, because you watch like Critical's videos or whatever, and like, you know, he's a YouTuber, so he's got to amp up his titles a little bit. He's like, Velma is worse than I expected. Like, he'll have that there as his title.
Yeah.
Velma was better than I expected, and this is not to say that the show was good. Within the first 60 seconds, I literally thought, I'm going to be Mindy Kaling's therapist watching this. It was just a stupid self-insert show that, to get people to give a shit about it, they just threw it on an existing intellectual property and just threw that shit on there. Make it
Off of that point, I felt...
Yeah, please go. Please.
I felt personally that you didn't need to basically use the intellectual property of Scooby-Doo to make this show. Because the whole time that I was watching this, I knew that, yes, this is supposed to be a retelling, a reimagination of Scooby-Doo and the universe and such, and its characters. Although it's really funny, considering Scooby is nowhere to be found in this show, and apparently is not to be included at all. It's just the four of them without the dog.
If they get desperate enough, there's gonna be like there's be a season premiere or like a season finale where they find like an abandoned puppy somewhere, and
You say that, but I have a feeling that this show is not gonna make it past season 1 if the fucking ratings are gonna continue to be like this. Because
ooh, you're gonna be real disappointed then.
is that already slated for a season 2? Yeah, of course it is. All right.
It's
Sometimes
rumored,
I wish
it's rumored that it's already
Sometimes I
slated for a
wish
season
HBO could be a bit more like Netflix. Because at least
HBO is already kind of like Netflix.
I know,
Dude,
but
when
like
they
it's...
promoted this show, they literally promoted it by saying it's the biggest animation premiere that we have on the platform right now. Which is the most empty statement, nothing statement ever.
Yeah.
Because they canceled all the other fucking
Exactly.
animated shows on the platform.
Okay,
Fuck you,
all right.
man. Like, it's
okay.
so...
Okay, I was proven wrong on that.
Venture Brothers
Okay.
getting canceled was the tip of the iceberg, man. It should have... whatever. Go. But
and-
yes, Velma...
It did not have to be a Scooby-Doo retelling. They did not have to use all of the aesthetics, at least, of that show to make this. Because, for one, Scooby-Doo ain't Scooby-Doo without the dog. It's not. It's just like, he's the whole, like, almost linchpin of the whole show. His Reggie, like, whole voice is what, like, not that what carried the franchise back in the day, but it's what you knew. Like, you knew it was Scooby-Doo off of that. Like, right away. That's what, like, almost helped you just remind yourself, oh, yeah, this is Scooby-Doo. It did not have to, again, bring all the characters. The writing itself, there were times that I did go, like, huh. At the very least, it got, like, a two ha-has, like, out of me.
Yeah, the
Like-
show made me laugh 2 more times than I thought it would because I laughed twice.
Yeah. And the thing is that this show and at least the main character, Velma Dinkley, she is nothing new from what we've seen before. She isn't. I know YouTube's. I'm kind of glad we don't get monetized because like I would have cursed up a storm maybe already within the first 10 seconds of our video.
Oh, with YouTube's new rules, it's gonna be impossible for DDE
I know,
to
yeah,
be
exactly.
monetized, even if we wanted to. Like, you can't swear like at all now. It's insane.
Yeah. One day like we just got to get them sponsorships and like we just better hope for the best at that point. But,
Yeah, just listen to us on other platforms, please.
Yeah.
Like where we can fucking say fuck shit, fuck cunty, fuckity fuck. You know,
it's like
not
this,
here.
yeah, like that whole policy change was a little weird. So I mean, like if
It
in
was
case
a
if y'all didn't
little
know,
stupid.
it's a little fucking stupid. But
Yeah.
yeah, basically, she follows the trope of being an unlikable cunt. I'm sorry. It's the same thing.
You're not sorry.
No, I'm not sorry. No, well, I'm sorry that like if your feelings are hurt. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. Yeah, you're right. I'm not sorry that she is an unlikable cunt, and I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, it
'cause
is
she-
very ballsy to make Velma the least likable character in the show. But the thing is, going in, I expected this to be like misandrist level feminism because that's what the internet was freaking out about it being about. That Velma
Yeah.
was gonna be this unlikable piece of shit.
But she,
And
you know,
then
it's not
she
just
wants-
men. She is an unlikable piece of shit to basically every group in the world.
Oh, yeah.
She is-
But no,
she-
The thing is, though, I realized that's watching the show. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that that's the point. Not like one of those ironic like things like, oh, she's such a bitch and we're supposed to like her. It's like she's the victim, even though like she's horrible to everybody, like just because like, you know, we made her brown or
Yeah.
whatever. Which again, I don't think they used that just as a scapegoat. I think part of them they did so they can just accuse people of being racist who don't like it. But obviously, with the main reason she's brown now, like in all the race swaps, is for diversity and like so Mindy Kaling can self-insert herself. You know what I mean?
that
Like,
race card doesn't work anymore though. It doesn't work.
Well,
Like
yeah,
you call us out for being racist. None of us give a shit. Like it because first of all, that's not our intention. We're not calling that, at least for the people who are like calling it out and saying like, oh, why is Velma brown? Like, okay, yeah, you could call them racist, but like us, they throw that race card to even people who just flat out criticize the show.
well,
Oh,
the
you
thing
don't
is-
like Velma because she's brown. Like, oh, well, what are you, like, racist? Like, what, you want Velma to be white? It's like, not really. I don't give a shit, but it's like, you know, why is it that every one of these reimaginings or retellings, yeah, okay, like, you have to, you feel as if, like, it's almost part of the formula that you have to, you know, change up the skin tone. Like, everyone, minus, I guess, Fred. Fred is the only one that got saved by that. Like, because he's still, like, whatever skin tone he was. Shaggy's black. Velma's brown. Daphne's Asian for some reason. And, like, it's just unnecessary to why they felt as if they had to do that. Because it's like,
well,
how does that change, like, their character in any way? Like,
But
I mean,
I was-
Shaggy is a complete simp in this fucking show. Like, holy moly. Like, he is the image that you have of when you were in high school and had a crush on a girl that she knew that she was never gonna fuck you. In her, like, ever. In her entire time knowing you, she was never gonna fuck you. But you just felt, oh, I just have to go and impress her some way. That's what Shaggy is. It's like the person you look back at in your past and cringe internally.
yeah, and Dennis is not exaggerating either. He literally tries to sell his kidney to make money for Velma in the second episode. I'm literally not even joking. Like, making him a simp is one thing, but that was when he stopped being a believable simp. That was insane. Like, even I was like, Shaggy reminded me of myself when I was in high school because I would, like, fall in love with women super easy and do shit for them when I wanted to. I would not sell a kidney to make money for her if she said she needed money. That is fucking holy shit. And he was actually gonna do it. He walked into, like, a fucking, like, harvester's den, like, with a bunch of drug dealers around everywhere and started making the marks for what he was actually going to do it. Like, my God.
Mindy Kaling, who hurt you?
Oh,
Who hurt
no,
you
she's
in your
been
life?
hurt. Well,
Has she?
Just-
Like, actually?
I don't know,
Like-
maybe.
Like, I'm really wondering, like, you know, at least as far as, like, how some of these writers, like, how they portray, like, kind of just dudes, you know, in a general sense. Like, this kind of stuff, right? Dudes are always seen as, like, oh, stupid, slow, like, things, simp as fuck, just overall weak.
Or, like,
And,
rich,
like-
you know, spoiled, you know, white boy.
Spoil the
which is
girl
why-
that doesn't
which is-
deserve to be spoiled.
Which is the only reason they made Fred white, by the way. Like, he's the butt of every joke. Like, he's the personification of uber man-child. Like, he literally, as almost a grown man, can't cut his own food in the show. Like, whenever, like, somebody needs to cut his food, he goes, "Cutties, mommy, cutties."
I actually laughed at that because it's like you almost forget this is supposed to be. I mean, he's not really like a grown man because he's still in high school apparently, but like this is supposed to be a grown ass man.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like that much of a man-child. But, you know, I was pleasantly surprised by like some of the writing choices though, because for some of the things they made sense. Like, Daphne being Asian wasn't just so they could, like, race swap for diversity. They did that because, here's the plot of the show, right? The plot of the show is that Velma is, trying to find,
I was gonna say this too. The plot itself and the very fact that her trauma, like, she carries it with her.
It's not bad, right?
I thought that was actually, like, oh, shit, like, that's actually very interesting. Because
Right?
it's, like, this just, that trauma, like, thing, she just carries it with her everywhere. She can't get over it. She tries her best to, but it just keeps coming back. And it's like almost like an allegory of like how like people kind of handle their own trauma or like depression, because it's like she blames herself. I guess spoiler alert if any of you have watched the show.
I'll leave it at the beginning of the description.
Her mom essentially like disappeared, and Velma puts the blame on that on herself. And as a child, a parent like thing dying like that, obviously the kid's gonna just automatically think like, oh, that shit's my fault. It's just how kids are. And she just carried that with her all the way up to like where she is in the present day in the show. And I thought at least the way they even portrayed her trauma, where she literally feels like her like heart and everything is just like tight. She's basically having an anxiety attack. She's like breathing heavily. She's like just feeling like real, like just almost just constricted, like almost as if she's
the anxiety
choking.
attack in Puss in Boots was way more believable though. That just has to do with the voice acting though.
I actually kind of want to see Puss in Boots. I heard it
was
good.
amazing.
Yeah, like for one of the like Shrek reboots before the actual Shrek reboot, like, you know, I heard it was like pretty top notch. So, you know,
I've not heard a
kudos to
single bad
DreamWorks.
thing about that film. Both fucking audiences and critics loved it.
Yeah, like they love it the same way that the first Shrek came out. Like the same praise that they threw it there is almost the same that they're throwing it here. I almost
Yeah,
feel.
people are literally saying it's one of the best animated films in years. I gotta
get around to watching it too.
Yeah.
But, like the plot of it again, going back to the plot, it's just like it's so like that whole part and the premise.
You were pleasantly surprised,
Yeah,
right?
I
the plot
was like, oh shit, that's very smart, and like that actually is like very well written. I like that. But the rest of it is just like so nauseating at times because like just the way she talks to people. How in the fuck have you not been told to shut the hell up at least once, Velma?
Well, that's the whole thing, is that she was. That's what I thought the show was gonna be, is that no one ever told her to shut the hell up, and that she was supposed to wonder why. Throughout the whole show.
Why does nobody like me?
Yeah, wonder why the whole show, why nobody's like her. Because in this show, we're gonna be real, Velma is a really unlikable character. She's very judgmental of people. But the thing is, I thought the show wasn't gonna be self-aware of that. When I went to sit down in the show, I thought it was literally going to be, okay, I'm about to be Mindy Kaling's therapist. She's about to trauma dump us for about, like, however many fucking episodes through this show, and it's just going to project that onto an already existing IP so anybody would give a shit.
Yep.
But I was pleasantly surprised, not only by the plot being really good of Velma trying to find her mom, having the trauma and PTSD of blaming it on herself, which is personified through, like, monsters trying to get her and, like, seep into her skin.
I mentioned that. Yeah, I forgot to mention that part. Yep.
Yeah, it's personified through, like, literal monsters chasing her and, like, seeping into her skin. It's pretty gross.
Which I liked.
And I also liked that too. But that's not the case. Literally in the second episode, Daphne like calls her out on it. It's because like here's the thing, like it turns out like another spoiler I guess here is that Daphne is a drug dealer trying to raise money and she's trying to raise money to fucking find her.
But
Well, no, this is another good reason. That's another part of the reason besides diversity as to why they made her Asian. Daphne has two moms.
Yeah.
And so they
Not
adopted
hers.
not hers. And they adopted an Asian child, which a lot of gay couples do. They adopt like from like those like Asian registries of like, you know.
Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Exactly.
Y'all know it.
So that makes sense. That gives her an excuse to be adopted. And the reason that's good is because it helps her relate to Velma a little bit more because they reveal, oh shit, Daphne's also trying to find her birth parents.
Yeah.
And
Like,
so Velma
yours
is also
missing. I don't know where mine is.
And
Like,
considering that like they advertised it with two girls kissing, which they always do in these fucking like HBO shows because 2 girls kissing is hot, 2 guys kissing is ugly or like
I'm
funny.
saying though, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy is hotter than Daphne and Velma. I'm just saying.
And you have every right to say that. You do. So, but I thought they were only making them lesbians for the sake of being lesbians. Like, haha, like, hey,
It
like,
felt
look,
a
like,
little
look at how
forced.
it did. But then when they
really
were,
did.
I thought for sure
that kiss
that they were
didn't
gonna
feel
do.
earned.
Well, that's
It
the thing.
didn't feel
That's what I'm
earned at
fucking
all.
saying. Like, Daphne and Velma just fucking shit on each other the whole time, and then like at the end of episode 2, they're making out. Like, what? I'm a straight white man. Nothing turns me on more than 2 girls kissing, and I'm watching that, and I'm like, no. No, this feels forced. At
This
the
was
very
not
least,
earned.
in the
It was not
trailers,
earned.
it did. But then, as soon as they revealed that, like, Daphne fucking was trying to find her birth parents, and I'm like, oh, they actually fucking wrote in a reason for her to actually relate
Yeah.
to Velma a little. And beyond the fact that they were childhood friends. And then Daphne stopped hanging out with her once she got hot. Like, typical bitchy, like, teenage girl stuff,
Yeah.
whatever.
Like some real mean girl shit.
Like, that was
that whole
way
like,
more... No, you gotta admit, though, that as much as you hate it, that was more well-written than
No.
I would have ever thought it would be.
I
like,
never
Velma and
fault-
Daphne hooking up like that, it actually
Their-
made sense. I thought
their
for
character-
sure it was going to be completely forced, and it actually wasn't.
Their
I was
character
pleasantly
motivations.
surprised.
Their character motivations. Like, I like the writing on that. It's so
Yeah.
simple, but at the same time, it is very like you
The
feel
plot
for them.
is very simple to follow. That's another
Yeah,
good thing about it.
that's the
Like the
thing.
murders and stuff. Because the another plot point here is that there was a murder, and the murderer, the murdered girl, was in Velma's locker, so they all think she did it.
Yeah, which
And,
I
like,
thought was like, wait, hold up. Why does that happen so often? Where it's like, oh, if this person was in my locker, right? Automatically, you think it was me. It could have been anyone's locker. You're gonna fucking put the blame on like any other random mook that like came along and it's like, oh, I found this dead person in my locker, and then you're gonna arrest him. It's like you didn't even open up an investigation. But I mean, at the same time, like like suspects, you need to pin something on somebody. So
Yeah.
I get that, but it's just like I always just found that like just so witch hunty. It's like, oh, we found this dead person in your locker, so therefore you must have done it.
Well, that's
Because
the whole
they're
point. It's like pin it on the weird girl who
I know,
nobody likes.
But that's what I mean. It's like, even if she wasn't weird, it'd be the same fucking thing. It's like I am just a normal kid going along in school, and for some reason I found this corpse in my fucking locker,
Yeah.
and apparently I'm in trouble. And it's like, I wasn't even, like, you could even just say, like, I wasn't even at school that day. Like, what? Why are you pinning it on me? Because I don't know, I always just found that sort of, like, kind of accusation always, like, so shaky. Because it's like, I mean,
Yeah.
y'all have to drive the plot, I guess, somehow, but it's just like, I don't know. I always found that, like, a little annoying. It's like, automatically, I'm at fault if it's in my locker. What kind of fucking murderer puts a corpse in their own locker?
Exactly. You know what I mean? It's like, it's supposed to be like, and that's, I guess, points off for this show. It relies way too much on meta humor, which, as we all knew, it was kind of going to. Like, I thought this entire show was about to be like, yeah, women can do anything, especially women of color, and fuck men. And like, in the first 60 seconds of the show, it was literally Velma talking about how awesome she is and like how stupid men are. I'm not kidding. I was ready to turn it off in the first 60 seconds. And then all of a sudden, there's a huge tone shift. Like, halfway through the first episode. And, like, in the second episode, they actually are aware of how much, frankly, I'll just fucking say it, of how much of a bitch Velma is. And they call her out on it. Because, like, Daphne's trying to sell drugs with her, like, because they work out a deal because, like, Daphne's parents are cops and Velma wants the fucking file that they have on her mom.
Yeah.
And Daphne's like, if you help me sell drugs and make $500, like, I'll give it to you. And Velma can't sell anybody drugs because she keeps, like, fucking making fun of everybody that she fucking tries to sell to. And she's like, yeah, you're not the only person she slept with to get the lead role, right?
Yeah,
Like, she's trying
yeah,
to sell
that
to the
part.
theater kids. And then they run away and, like, they're not gonna buy from you after that.
She even, like, brought down a gym bro. It's like saying, like, oh, it's like, oh, yeah, you could tighten your body all you want. It won't hide the sag that's going to eventually happen. It's just like,
Who she's trying to sell steroids to.
like,
And then that's the whole point, is that Daphne calls her out on that. She's like, you might want to try being a little less judgy. Like, if you're going to be selling to
little?
these people.
Just a
And it's like
little?
and it's like the popular, judgy, mean, bitchy girl who says that to her, which is the irony of it.
But here's the thing, though. Like, I want to just say this part. This show, its essence had so much potential because it's like an adult animated Scooby-Doo.
People have had those conversations about, like, what if Scooby-Doo was for adults, you know?
Would have fucking loved that. because we already, and I mentioned this to David in our little like conversation before, in that like we already got a bit more mature DC universe through Harley Quinn, and we literally see that show making fun of the entire fucking DC universe relentlessly. It is hilarious how much they make fun of everybody. Batman, his dumbass kids, Robin and Batgirl, the entire idea of just superheroes and villains, him even dealing with his own trauma, like just even bringing another like aspect. That was also one season I remember where like Harley actually goes into like Bruce's past, like his memories and such, and actually like help him deal with his trauma from losing his parents, and they handle it very well. And like it's just done in such a fucking masterful way almost that like every time like I watch clips from it, like I still bust out laughing when fucking Joker asks Bruce like, where's my fucking electric car, Bruce?
I love that scene never stops being funny.
Like,
Wayne Tech promised electric cars by this year. I put a deposit down. Where's my goddamn electric car, Bruce? Never fails to make me laugh.
even like Joker finding love with a Hispanic woman, I found out like, you know what, like it's in the way they just like kind of wrote it, and even like him, like Joker obviously still is a villain and he'll always be a villain and everything, but it's just like, you know, I think at least for elements such as that, like, you know, like, because it's not really believable that the Joker would ever find love like that, but like he did have an experience in one of the seasons where like he literally had no recollection of him ever being the Joker, and he was just like a normal guy and like just kind of just going through life. And after he realizes like the kind of life that he had before, like he doesn't want to give it up, so he still goes to the girl that he essentially left because he turned back into the Joker again, and like, you know, just kind of tells her like that even though I am like this, like, you know, I still love you, and the time that we shared back then, like I would kind of want to do it again. And Harley also like, you know, goes through like, it's so funny because like I know I always give shit about like how love is written a lot in a lot of shows.
It's hard.
It is hard because it's like, you know, it's so fucking easy to fall into the trap of like making it so tropey, you know? Because like all the famous like kind of love stories and even like romance movies that we've seen in the past, and even the ones now, they all follow the same formula. Nothing's really changed. Like the elements may be a bit different because the times are obviously different from, let's say, 1980 to 2022, but it's still the same. At the end, they find love, and that's the ending. And in the case of at least like, you know, Velma, like that whole kiss should have been towards the end. It should have been towards like the last second to last episode. But like,
the thing is, who knows, they're fucking hooking Velma up with Daphne.
That's what I mean, yeah. But it's like, you know,
it might just be like a temporary thing, like an arc or something.
It could be, but at the same time, like that would be for me.
I mean, she's not only into girls in the show. Like, she talks about men like a lot.
Yeah, she's clearly
attracted.
Yeah,
she's attracted to Fred at first, and like talks about how his dad is a dilf and stuff. Like, I thought they were just gonna make her a straight up lesbian, like how she's supposed to be in Mystery Incorporated, and how she is in the other new Scooby-Doo show that came out. The one that is actually for a younger audience too, which good on them, honestly.
No, but they handled that maturely.
My ex-girlfriend was gay, and she looked exactly like that. Like, Velma's gay, like, come on, or she's at least like bi or whatever, but like that is not a straight woman. Like,
hold on, let me just finish this, because it's like, I truly thought that, you know, the relationship, at least between her and Daphne, that could have easily been like the ship of the show. And they could have like at least built that up towards the end. And I don't know why they didn't choose to do it, but you know, again, like I'm not in that writer's table.
Maybe Mindy's gonna surprise us, and then it's gonna end with her and fucking Norville.
No, that's never gonna happen.
I know it's not going to happen, but just imagine. I thought Kaylee's supposed to be like, fuck this guy, whatever. Because here's the thing, in the show, fucking Velma rejects him, and she rejects him hard.
Yeah. Like, but she's going through her own PTSD episode, and she fucking straight up snaps out of it because his confession is hilarious.
She literally says, why? Like, I should just let them kill me because I'm weird and nobody likes me. And she starts to cry and she's like, no, I like you. In fact, I like you a lot. Like, I love you. And then she's like, instead of just being like,
snaps out of it.
what? She's like, what? You like me? So there is someone who likes me. Not even having to reciprocate his feelings. She just like wakes up. She's like, what? Oh, dude, what? That's fucking gay. You're like a brother to me.
She is an absolute narcissist. And it's
Here's
the
the
most
thing about that
disgusting
scene, though.
thing ever.
I think Kaling probably wanted to write that scene a little more mean-like. But the vibe that it got from me is that, like, and who knows what they're going to go with it later on in the show, is that she kept laughing about it because she thought he was joking.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're trying to...
While she was having an anxiety attack.
That's literally what she says. She's laughing at, like, the notion of him loving her because she's like she thinks he's literally joking about it because
Well, she also views him as a brother.
Exactly.
Like,
so like they wrote it in a way where like she friend zoned her, she friend zoned him without making her so unbelievably hateful about it. Like she went like, "Ew, no, you're like a brother to me," and like she understood what he meant, which they're probably gonna wind up doing later in the show. Who knows? Yeah. Then it would have been a little different. But he's saying some crazy dialogue too. Like in the third episode in the teaser, like we got to talk about you maybe being a lesbian. Like he's still holding out hope. You know what I mean? Like he's still holding out hope after he saw Daphne and Velma making out. You know what I mean? It's like that's verbatim what I would have said to a girl if I was in high school when that shit happened. Like they did a good job writing a simp, I will say that. But the fact that you made him one.
No, but the fact that you made Shaggy, of all people, a simp.
I can tell what they based that off of. Like Shaggy in the fucking original movies, like in the 1980s movies, oh, he fucks. In those movies, like the single movies, right? Like the movies that don't have Velma, Daphne, and Fred in them when he's just out with Scooby. He gets with like a different girl in like every one of those films.
Yeah.
Like oh my god, the one where he turns into a werewolf and he's got got the country girl like on him for like that entire movie. And I'm like, yo, my boy. Yeah. Like god diddly damn.
Bro was crushing it from like 90s on.
He was
killing it. And even in the live action movie, he gets like the hot blonde.
Yeah, it's like I like how they actually don't hook him up with Velma. Because I never understood that ship. That ship only existed because like there's Fred and Daphne who's like, oh, the two gorgeous popular kids.
Exactly.
They hook up with each other. Dun dun, makes sense, whatever. Mm. And then they're like, oh, so the other two, they have to hook up, right? The fucking nerd and the stoner?
Which I mean it can happen, but
it can, but does it?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
So there's a part of me that hopes they don't hook them up in this show too, but point is this show really like
I'd only want them to hook up if Shaggy also started to mature though.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like if he has an arc,
yeah.
If he has an arc and we do see him like actually not become a fucking simp no more, then like, you know what, maybe I'll be all for it. But here's the thing, I am not watching episode 3. So,
I fully expected this entire show to just be Mindy Kaling's diary, and it is to an extent. Like, there's clearly, like, some shit that is projected onto Velma, but it's not nearly as much as I thought it would. There's
it's still a bit of a self-insert, though.
It is a self-insert, absolutely.
No, but, like,
I definitely think it's cringe.
I feel as if, though, like, there is degrees to it. Because I think, obviously, putting in your own personal experiences into a character, like, in a subtle way, is, like, fine. Because it's like, look, it's still something that you created.
You have to be above those insecurities, though.
But that's what I mean, though. Like, at the same time, it's like you had to have been also be able to mature past it. And also, in a way, write that experience into, like, an arc for that character and kind of have them sort of go in a, like, kind of skeleton version of that story of yours into their arc.
When I was writing the screenplay about my ex, I was writing that shit at a time when I was not ready for it. And if I made it, it literally would have been like that play that girl wrote about Danny Sexbang. About how, like, she fucking hate, you know what I mean? Where it's just like the main character learns nothing. It's just a pure projection of the writer's own insecurities.
And here's the thing, though.
And here's the thing. That's not fully what Velma is. It's only mixed in. And I can accept that. That's okay. In my opinion. If it was going to be full on, like, Velma's just a bitch to everybody, she's an unlikable protagonist, but for some reason we as the audience are supposed to like her. She hooks up with the popular girl for no reason. Fred is just a man-child, and Shaggy never learns to stop being a simp. Then yeah, fuck this show. It's too early to say that, though, yet. It's only been 2 episodes. But I've actually seen a little character development in Velma, where it's like she has somebody call her out for being a bitch. Yeah. And it's like, hey, you gotta stop it. I thought for sure...
Her best friend, no less.
I thought for sure, it was just going to be Velma shitting on people the entire show, and nothing changes. But the more I watch it, it feels more like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, where it's like, yeah, the protagonist is unlikable, and they are supposed to be unlikable, and then hopefully they're gonna learn to be more likable as it goes on. Because here's the thing: when you're writing a show or a movie, the main character has to go through a change.
Yeah.
If they're not going through a change, your show sucks. The audience is gonna feel like it sucks. They're gonna feel like they got nothing out of it. And I thought for sure that's what Velma is gonna be, but I saw a microscopic bit of character development so far in the first 2 episodes, and I'm hoping that continues to go on. Because unlike Dennis, I actually am going to continue to watch it. I am. I'm going to see how it keeps going. Because it's not as unbearable as I thought it was going to be. I really mean it.
Okay, so then, but
I was expecting to gouge my fucking eyes out.
I know,
watching
but that's
this
what I'm
shit,
saying.
man.
Like, episode 2 was the turning point.
And instead I was sitting there like...
That's what I'm saying. Episode 2 for you was like the turning point. Because it's like you realized, okay, no, they are actually like not retarded. And making her into like an unlikable bitch like all throughout.
I liked episode 2 a little less because all they did was like, Fred has a small dick. Fred has a small dick. Ha 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 ha. And it makes sense. He's like the rich. He's like the rich asshole.
Rich man child. Rich man child.
Which is funny because that was Daphne in like every other variation of Scooby-Doo. Her last name is Blake.
I always also
That's
thought,
the most fucking Bradley T upper crust ass name.
I always just also thought like Fred was just more of the jock because
Bradley T upper crust.
Fred always looked like kind of heavy on the chest and everything. Like he looked pretty built, at least in the original like I think what was it, the 80s cartoon?
Fred is supposed to be like the good old American boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
Like
but,
he's popular, but he's not a dick. He's popular because he's in the original shows. He's supposed to be popular because he's an actual good guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of dumb. He's not the brightest tool in the shed, but he's not a bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's also obsessed with traps. You heard what I said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny when you say
also,
it like
Daphne
that, right?
sounds like she would be a boring lay.
Well, that's a good thing about Daphne in the original shows, too, is that she is the boring chick. And then eventually, in later variations of Scooby-Doo, we're like, okay, out of all these characters, out of all these 4 characters, which one is the most likely to be able to actually kick ass for, like, no reason? Definitely, like, the hot, popular girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Who probably, like, carries around mace and, like, learned black belt taekwondo and self-defense.
Yeah.
Like how she is in the movie. Like in Sarah Michelle Gellar's portrayal of Daphne. Like, Daphne, like, kicks ass, and it fits perfectly. It just fits. You know what I mean? So, honestly, these are different portrayals of the characters. It's kind of vapid, but it's not as vapid as I thought it was going to be, honestly.
Different enough that it's still polarizing, though. That's the thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Because, like, again...
it's still self-inserty.
And at the same time, you didn't have to make this a Scooby-Doo-esque show.
I think they did.
I don't think they had to. Because, honestly, the writing is fine enough that you did not have to use it. I like all the ideas that they fucking put in there. Hell, you could have made this into like a Nancy Drew like fucking like retelling, and I would have found that way more likable than the fact that you had to put it in as like a Scooby-Doo retelling. That's at least just me, because Scooby-Doo is Scooby-Doo because of like all the aesthetics that we knew of it from the 80s. All the shows that have come even afterwards all carried that over some way, somehow.
If you wrote this, though, with original characters, the show's exactly the same, it's just not Velma, it's, Kathleen. or whoever, you know what I mean?
Betty.
Or Betty. But the thing is, it's literally like, oh, that's supposed to be Velma. Oh, that's Daphne. Oh,
That's
Fred.
fine.
No, people would have hated that.
No.
Yeah, they would have.
I
Yeah,
think,
they would have.
honestly, if
Yeah, they
they
would've.
made her character where it's like,
People
okay,
would have been saying, why did they not just make this like
Wait, hold
Scooby-Doo?
on. Hold up. You can, like, make and get inspirations from obviously other characters. Like, all art, again, is derivative. So, like, at least for that portion of criticism, it's like most people really can't say shit. Because even your favorite characters that you've seen from last year, like even Invincible, has plenty of, like, character traits that we've seen from at least Spider-Man. He's a young kid with superpowers. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Literally, that's like most teenage superheroes in a nutshell right off the bat. But why was Invincible at least so fucking great? Because again, Invincible follows also like another IP. Superheroes in general. Why is it so like that people loved it so much? Because for one, it was extremely violent. Let's be real.
Like part of what I didn't like about it, to be honest. I'm sick of it personally.
I didn't care for it. I didn't care for the violence really too much. I thought like this really does nothing to elevate this show. Like
Yeah,
the
to me,
shock
it felt like,
value.
hey, we can do this because we can. Isn't that
But, like,
shocking
yeah,
or whatever?
The
Like,
shock
I don't
value
want
that I got from that first episode when Omni-Man literally kills off the Justice League, that actually did like help hook me in. If nothing.
Is that how it
else.
starts? Like the actual Justice League?
Yeah, like he
Superman
literally
and
kills off the
Batman
whole.
and-
Yeah, he kills off the whole Justice League
Why?
single-handedly.
Why does he do that?
Oh, you never watched the
No,
first
I
season then?
I've never watched Invincible.
Essentially, he's like he was there on the planet for a while. He knew them as colleagues, really, more than anything else. He never joined their group ever. And he was actually Omni-Man. He's actually part of an alien race that is a bunch of conquerors out there in the galaxy. And he was sent to Earth to essentially have it prepared for like their arrival. And he figured, obviously, that first step is to get rid of these guys because these guys would obviously like put a hindrance to that plan. So he offed all of them.
I didn't even
Every
know that
single
shit was,
one.
I didn't even know that shit was canon with DC. I had no idea. Or like a retelling of DC or whatever. I had no idea it was canon with
It
that
was
shit.
no, it's not that. It, like my whole point was that at least with in the case of comparing Velma to Invincible is that Invincible follows all the tropes that we know from superheroes. Every single one. Like there is not a single thing that they have not used from any of the stuff that we at least are familiar with from Marvel and even DC. Every single one. But the reason why that I don't know, like it's that at least I like Invincible is because of the fact that like it is familiar enough, but it's also different enough, and it's that whole like kind of combination that it has is enough for me to like kind of view it as its own property and as its own like sort of idea, because yes, superheroes have been essentially done to death at this point. It's a dead horse at this point. Every single movie that we've seen from the Avengers to even Superman to Batman, like everything we've seen, we are so familiar with it now. Like we're basically masters at it at this point. We know it from the front of the book to the end of the book. For Velma's case though, like you, not in a disrespectful way, as I think a lot of people would say, but you still like use the aesthetics of the show, because Velma still looks like Velma. She's just like brown. She has the same Velma getup. She has the sweater. She has the skirt. She has the glasses. She has the hair. She is Velma essentially with a different skin tone. Daphne is the same way. She just has different eyes. Fred is just a bit scrawnier. He's still the same white guy that we knew him as, and that's it. Shaggy is still like lanky as hell, but he's just black now. But we don't have the dog. And the thing is that from the very beginning of Scooby-Doo, it was never about Velma to begin with. I mean, she never was she was obviously a part of the cast. She was part of the team. Like, she was a part of that whole franchise. She's like 1/5 of that whole thing. It's not Scooby-Doo if you take out Fred. It's not Scooby-Doo if you take out Shaggy. It's not Scooby-Doo if you take out Daphne. It's not Scooby-Doo if you take out Velma. But again, it's also not Scooby-Doo if you took out Scooby-Doo entirely. Now, my point is not really pointing to the fact that the absence of Scooby-Doo is the reason why the show is terrible. At least, for me, again, like, I'm, like, so weird with it because, like, I gave this a 5 out of 10 to David. That was honestly my feeling because there was still plenty enough in the show that I liked that I did enjoy. The very simple plot and premise, and even like just the portrayal of like Velma's trauma and PTSD, I thought was great fucking writing. Honestly, that was like just so, like that was great. But the very fact is that you had to use the IP of Scooby-Doo as essentially a curtain over this. And basically almost have it, maybe not as a curtain again, I'll like get rid of that whole example, but like you had to basically use, the whole Scooby-Doo IP and write your stuff around it. And obviously like, all the characters got to look like them. They just got to look different enough that like, it's not the same person. But it's like every time I'm looking at them, I know that that's Velma. I know that that's Shaggy. I know that that's Daphne. I know that that's Fred. But you could have easily, in my opinion, like, taken essence, because if this is supposed to be like a mystery sort of like kind of show, right?
I mean, how could it not be?
But that's the thing, like, you didn't have to, again, use the whole mystery gang to do that. Because, for one, there is plenty of other, like, I mean, minus Scooby-Doo, there's plenty of other, like, kind of mysteries related series that, you know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are familiar with. Like, one of them including, I believe it is, Nancy Drew. And detective stories, like, you know, they all have, like, at least if we're thinking of their aesthetics, you know, what do we know of Sherlock Holmes as? The guy with the tall guy in the long coat with the pipe and the a deer hat. I forgot the actual name, but like, yeah, that hat that he wears. And we've had modern retellings of Sherlock Holmes, like in our present day. The BBC show that, if anyone's familiar with, like, I loved it, watching it from beginning to end. And I thought it was actually done very well, and it was very tasteful. And it was very respectful to the source material. And I think, I guess, really my main problem with this show is that it is low-key kind of disrespectful to the source material, because their version or their way of thinking was that the way we could tell this in the modern day and for adults is to essentially up the meta humor towards like 11. There is not a single line in that whole show that's not meta humor almost. Like, virtually the entire first 2 episodes, like, I didn't hear, like, nothing that wasn't meta humor. Like, it almost seemed so, like, the writing just seemed so forced with that crap that, like, I rolled my eyes by the time of the end of the first episode.
Yeah, I literally yelled at my TV, like, laughing. Like, ha ha ha, get it? They're talking about how, like, all these shows open with, like, gratuitous nudity to get people to watch them while they're all naked in the shower together. Ha 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 ha. And there was no one around me. I wasn't talking to anybody when I said that shit. Yeah. It's definitely one of the worst things about the show is that, like, it's pretty much all meta humor. Is that, like, that's the same thing like what, like, Velma says about, like, what she thinks 420 means. Like, yeah, it stands for adults who still watch cartoons. And that's the shit that made people think, like, who the fuck is this show for? Is it for Mindy? Is it just for Mindy Kaling? Because I feel like it's just for Mindy Kaling. You know what I mean? But then
all the Mindy Kalings out there in the world.
Listen, I really do, especially considering the fact that Hollywood has canceled so many animated shows, which, as a writer, disappoints me drastically, because I want to write for animated TV specifically. I really don't agree. I really truly believe if, like, they tried to do this show on its own with, like, original characters and whatnot, it would not have held on its own. I really don't think it would have. Because the whole thing is that, like, Velma's trauma is about, like, she gets trauma from solving mysteries, because she felt like her solving, because the thing is her mom disappeared because of a mystery that Velma solved, or tried to solve. That's why her mom disappeared. I forget what the details of this. Oh yeah, like, she found, like, the Christmas presents or whatever, and then her mom went to go buy her one to surprise her and just never came back, or whatever. And so she associated solving mysteries with the trauma of losing her mom.
I have an idea what that present is.
And associating that, like, that means in the first episode, they would have had to be, this character's whole thing would have had to been about solving mysteries. With Velma, they didn't have to establish that. Because it's fucking Velma from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
With an original character, they would have had to establish that, and that's way more lore and backstory that you have to fit into a character that you just met, which is already hard enough to do when, like, literally just starting out a show. You know what I mean? Like, the sort of intro paragraph of, like, an essay, if that makes any sense. If you know what I mean. It's like, finding a way to have people give a shit about these characters is hard enough as it is. And it was on HBO Max, or just plop Scooby-Doo on it so people would. People would not have been talking about it if they didn't plop Scooby-Doo on it. This show was manufactured outrage. They manufactured the outrage by it to get people to watch it, to get people to hate watch it, like I did. And then to get people who, of all surprise, liked it. The marketing was so meta, it was kind of brilliant in that sense. And again, I'm not saying
if that was their intention.
If that was their intention. And I'm not saying the show is good. It relies way too hard on meta humor. There are some things that are a little disrespectful.
It thinks it's way too clever. It thinks it's way too clever is also my problem. Like,
I didn't get that vibe. The show was more self-aware than I thought it would like to think. If anything, I think the show would have came off way more pompous to me. Again, if Velma just never learns anything. She's just a cunt through the whole show.
She still is.
No one calls her out, like, for being a cunt. She doesn't change. That's what I thought the show was what it was gonna be. I remember when Wonder Woman first came out, and Glenn Tendo was talking to me about, like, if I go in the theater And, like, the entire movie is just like, yeah, Wonder Woman is the best superhero. Fuck men. Women are amazing. We don't have to be under men anymore. He said he was going to get ready to walk out of the theater.
Doesn't she literally fall in love with this guy? Like, that she's with the whole movie?
I don't remember, but, like, Diana is a great rich character. She's feministic enough where she doesn't just let guys grab her. Because, like, one dude, like, tries to grab her or flirts with her and she, like, fucks him up and stuff. But they don't do it in a way where she's hateable. You know, like, that movie is, like, it's feministic. It's not fucking misandristic, if that makes any sense. And that's what I fucking thought Velma was going to be. It's just Mindy Kaling projecting all of her insecurities onto us. And it's just some of that shit mixed in. It's like, I thought it was going to be, like, a whole smoothie of, like, constant gasoline. But now it just kind of feels like you mixed in, like, almond butter in a smoothie that it shouldn't have been in. That's what this shit feels like to me.
That's one way to
if
put it,
that makes any sense. Like, Fred sucks. I wish he had a little more depth besides being like a rich white boy crybaby, but you can tell that's just as Mindy Kaling as, like, you know, a fucking Indian woman. That's probably just how she feels about entitled rich white men and shit. So it's like, whatever.
I love his illness. Like, I don't remember you if you're not hot.
Glenn Howerton, by the way. Having Dennis from Always Sunny be this portrayal of Fred was kind of perfect. I can't lie. That made a load of sense. Yeah.
So that line's so fucking hilarious. It just seems so absurd that, like, you couldn't help but be like, wow, he actually said that. Like,
I have an illness. I just quoted it, dude. I just fucking quoted Velma. Yeah.
I have an illness.
Yeah. I'm going to watch the rest of this because this show can go in a lot of directions, and I'm very anxious to see which one it does. It could wind up being really ass depending on how that story ends. Assuming it ends. I mean, like, it's going to get, I think it already got renewed for a second season. Like,
you want to know what I think that present is?
What?
It would be so fucking corny and cheesy if this was the case, but it's like, you know, her mom, her bringing the present, right?
Yeah.
And obviously it's still wrapped. We have no idea what it is. It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I honestly think that that present was her mysterious disappearance. That she gave a mystery to her daughter to go solve. I know. I know. That's why I'm saying it would have been so fucking corny if that is the case. But, like,
I'm not even gonna bet against you on that.
Like, it could be.
I can see them
honestly,
doing that.
like, she, like, finally, like, you know, just like she gets to, like, a point where it's like, fuck it, and then, like, she just tears open the present, and it's just like a letter or like a fucking map. Like, her mom's just disappeared for years, right? And, like, she's just been, like, chilling out at, like, fucking Dubai or whatever, and, like, she just, like.
When you love your daughter so much and you want her to have a good mystery, so you kill yourself in a ditch and leave a paper trail for her to come find you. Fucking A.
Maybe not, like, well, they never found her body, so, like, she clearly is, like, just.
Oh, she's definitely not, like, dead. There's no way.
No,
she's
yeah,
definitely not gonna be
no
dead.
way. Like,
Yeah.
she's gonna be, like, she must have been kidnapped or some shit, I don't know, but, like.
She just works at a Denny's. Like Velma does at the beginning of the fucking show.
Instead of Denny, she's like a GM at a fucking BK.
Where they had the fucking funeral service for that girl, by the way. You remember they were having the fucking funeral service for the first dead girl at the fucking Spooner's restaurant. I gotta say, just from a writing perspective, like, I'm watching the show from, like, the perspective is like, and I'm not a professional writer by any stretch. I expected to hate it and expected to be like a full diary, but, like, the show's hitting the proper beats.
Yeah.
And it's doing a good job at that. Again, the beat about, like, Velma, like, drug dealing with Daphne was actually really well written. It was a good way to show that the character needs to change. It's actually not doing a bad job of hitting the beats. Visually, the show is very pleasing. I think the animation looks great, honestly. And the writing is not nearly as bad as I thought. Again, it's just a little too reliant on meta humor and, you know, still kind of cringy self-insert shit. I actually didn't mind that Scooby wasn't there. This show really pleasantly surprised me. And again, I know it sounds like I'm praising it. I don't think it's that good, but
like, you're neutral about it. It's like, it's not good, it's not really bad.
I'll end here because we are going on way too long at this point. It is not worse than Dragon Ball Evolution. Like, I honestly think what this show has taught me is that What this show has taught me is that you don't always listen to the internet mobs. Because the internet
you never
dogpiled
do.
on
You never.
The internet dogpiled on this so much to the point where it has literally broken the record on IMDb ratings of being reviewed lower than fucking Dragon Ball Evolution. One of the biggest sins in the history of cinema. It was not worse than Dragon Ball Evolution. Like, holy shit, no way. Like, that was a little much. Like, I can't lie. And I guarantee a lot of those, like, reviews are from people who just didn't watch it and were just hating on it or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, I know it sounds like I'm defending Velma a lot here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Even you're surprised, dude. The show was not that bad.
No, yeah, that's the thing. It's nowhere near as bad as DB Evolution.
Yeah, like, that was just, like, internet, oh, it's popular to hate on this, so I'm gonna
Holy hell. Because here's the thing, guys. Dragon Ball Evolution was objectively fucking terrible.
Like, it's not even, like, funny bad.
That's the thing. It's not even funny bad. It's just terrible.
Like, even Velma, I chuckled at some of the tropes, but it wasn't, like, so, like, I thought Velma Full of Stop was gonna be like, haha, fuck men, lesbians for the win, I wish every woman was gay, I'm gonna tongue kiss the hot chick, and it wasn't. Like, it actually had an ounce of depth to it. It had just enough to keep me engaged. It's not, like, the most, like, depthful show I've ever watched. It's not like, this is peak animation, I love it. I hope they cancel every other animated show to give 1,000,000 seasons of Velma. Like, no, fuck that noise. Like, but it just wasn't abysmal. It just literally wasn't what the internet made it out to be. That's all I'll say.
How does it compare to The Last Airbender from M. Night Shyamalan?
From M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong?
Check.
I don't know.
I'm checking. Don't check. I'm checking. Wow. I thought it'd be lower, honestly.
Is Avatar The
You
Last
wanna
Airbender
guess?
by M. Night Shyamalan? It's got like a 3.6.
Yeah.
Was I right?
It was a 4.
Oh, really? A 4?
Hard.
That
4.
movie was worse than a 4.
That's what I mean. So that's why, like, guys, you know, as David said, you don't trust.
I would have given Velma a 4. If anything, like, I would have given fucking Velma a 4 over that.
So The Last Airbender, according to 165,000 people, it's a 4.0 out of 10.
No, it wasn't. My God, like, that movie was fucking abysmal.
DB Evolution, 2.5 out of 10.
I believe it was formerly the lowest rated thing on that platform, or the lowest rated movie or something like that.
76,000 people. Velma, in the course of, what, a week or two that it's already been out?
A couple of days. A few days.
24,000 people in a couple of days have rated this 1.3. That's extreme for me.
No, it is seriously an overreaction.
Like, it's not a 1 by any stretch of the imagination. It is not a 1.
My God, like, it's like
these last two that I mentioned are objectively the worst adaptations I have ever fucking seen. Even the terrible Doom movie with The Rock was better than these two fucking shit shows.
I don't even remember that. That's how bad that shit is. I don't even fucking remember that existing.
Oh.
Well.
Good lord.
Yeah, I think
I think
we hit pretty much every nail on the head. I am going to keep watching it because I actually am engaged enough with the story at this point, to the point where I'm low key. It's
You're curious as to where it's gonna go.
Yeah, it's kind of like a turn your brain off kind of thing. And again, it's not as like full on like, again, fuck men. All women should be lesbians. We're gonna burn all our bras, make out, like Mindy Kaling projecting like that time that dude at that Hollywood party touched her shoulder once for a photo. It's like, I thought for sure, I made that up. Like, I was gonna, you know what I mean? Like, oh, he touched her shoulder, sexual harassment, whatever. I thought for sure it was gonna be a projection from like this clearly like super bitchy girl, and I was pleasantly surprised. It wasn't. There are just elements of some of that stuff in there. As long as it's not full self-insert, that's fine. Like even in the scripts that I write, like I base elements of that on my real life. That's normal. That's not self-inserty. And Velma feels more like basing elements from my own experiences mixed into this rather than just like trauma dumping or like just full self-insert. That's how it feels like to me. And if it was full self-insert, again, I would have hated it. Like the internet is making it out to be, but it really wasn't. Again, the humor kind of sucks, but the visuals are real nice.
It's a little rough around the edges.
It's a little rough. It's got engaging enough of a plot, though. The plot is, like, low-key one of the better things. Like, again, like, the trauma that Velma has. There's a good driving force behind the character, which is important. Like, all the characters actually have wants, which is important. You got to think about what a character wants in every scene, or what their overarching wants are. And this show does that as well. Again, except for Fred, who I think is probably the worst written character in the show. Like, I hope he eventually has, like, some sort of redeeming quality besides just, like, being the rich white butt of every joke that we just want to have in this show. But we're going on way too long at this point. Might cut out a segment, or I might just leave it like this because I wanted to review this in depth. I really did. So glad we were able to do that today.
You can go say the plugs. I need to pee like real bad. I'll be back.
All right, be sure to scream like you did in that one fucking episode that you did. All right, y'all know the drill. You can follow us on Twitter at Double D Pod. Pretty much all we post on Twitter is like when the episodes go live. That's it. And stuff like that and information about it. We kind of just made that to make it. You can follow the Double D Experience 21 on Instagram, where we post some fiery memes, some good old hot memes for you all occasionally, which is real fun. And we are also available wherever you get your podcasts. You might be listening on Spotify right now, which thank you. If you're listening on Spotify, please vote in the poll that we have in the description down below. That would help us out quite a bit. And more importantly, subscribe as well. Like, hit that follow button with the plus up at the top if you haven't already. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Anchor or whatever podcast platform you listen to, we are there for your listening pleasure. And also at youtube.com/Nintoonist. Go ahead and give us a subscription on there. Like the video, comment down below what you thought of Velma. I'm willing to listen and talk with you guys about it. Again, I'm not full stop defending this show. Like, I'm not going to say it was good or, like, you know, as meta-defining as it can really be, but, like, it just was not worse than Dragon Ball Evolution. That was a clear exaggeration by the internet. So, we're done here. I'm finishing all that up. I literally just finished the plugs as soon as you sat down, buddy.
Okay.
We're done. Hour half clean if I decide not to edit it too much. Dennis, your final thoughts. Or your final word to the people. Your words.
Velma is not the worst. It's not the best either. All right. Okay.
It's just not worse.
It's just there.
Dragon Ball.
It's just there.
Evolution.
It's painfully average.
Stop canceling all the good animated shows, Netflix and Hulu and HBO Max.
Wouldn't it be a crime against humanity if this thing went on and it was just turned out to be total shit, but all the other stuff that's come out since, like, all got, like, fucking canceled?
I mean, we don't know what the fuck's gonna happen to Rick and Morty now.
Oh, yeah!
Start talking about that right now. We'll get another hour and, like, good topic.
We got another episode for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow,
actually,
like
yeah, we could do that for the next one. Because you got to go on vacation. We could talk about that.
Yeah, true.
Or if we don't record in time, I'll just tell you to fuck off and record with Kyle or something. But then it wouldn't be the Double D experience now, would it?
Are you still recording?
Yeah, my chest hurts. We're bye. We're done. Bye. We're gone. We're gone.
Oh, you actually keeping this in?
We'll see you in your dreams. Love you. Bye. Don't get bit in the ass by a chain chomp.
Fuck you.